I have a confession. Just a few weeks ago at Hunkler Innovation Days, I burned my friend Boer because we had an agreement to meet and I forgot about it. How bad is it?
It's not very bad because, you know, I was having a little coffee, some Swiss chocolates, and okay, I did eventually leave and make it back home, but, you know, I'm here.
I was more afraid that you had been in Switzerland since then, but it's not a bad place to be, by the way.
The Hunkler Innovation Days was phenomenal. It was like old home week. Everybody was so overly happy to see everybody face to face, and it was just, it's a jewel of a show.
Definitely.
Really.
Yeah. And even, I was just about to say that even though that you probably knew all the things that was anticipated to see there, it must still have been nice to see it actually in action.
Oh, absolutely. There's no other place in the world where you can see all these machines in one location, truly. So,
as I said before, because we just make a retake on this one, I think that to some extent, because you have become an extremely public figure, because you have made great analysis, great understanding of where the markets are going and things like that. But a very important part of your work is also as advisory and guidance to the industry way before you even see the technology in the market, right?
yes. Yeah, so most of our work is really what I would call future product development. So we interview hundreds of commercial printers, converters a year, trying to figure out if we build it a certain way, and this is the royal we, right? Is there a market? And what happens, you know, if it doesn't quite scale the way? You know, and so we're here at the Corrugated show. It's a little quiet. It's still a very good market for inkjet. It continues to grow, but it's not a market for hundreds of systems a year, right? It's a market for tens of systems a year.
But big and expensive systems, right?
Yes, and they consume a lot of ink, and so it all depends on your perspective.
Yeah. That's of course true, but I was thinking that the reason I was asking about the role is that the split of your work of being, you know, giving facts and stats and data for how you operate your business today, and also what you mentioned before, like flying under the radar, understanding the future technology. How important are the public Boer be? I mean, you are the face of your company, right?
Right, but you know, in our case, it really frankly doesn't matter if I'm public or not. You know, I help to give presentations and things because it helps to move the industry forward. And you know, I'm codependent like everybody else in our space to make sure that this industry continues to grow. So if I can help that through giving a speech or providing some numbers, we're happy to do that.
Or even an interview with me, right?
Yes, absolutely. Although I don't think there's any, you know, potential value anybody's going to get out of hearing me.
Oh, come on, man. So when you say that you interview hundreds of printing companies and converters, and I was just thinking, I think that when I look at the industry, at least in some kind of perspective, it seems that it's developing so fast. I was just wondering, can you even get the data before you see the next iteration of something?
So that's an interesting question, right? Because the industry is consolidating. And it has a huge impact on the types of machines that you end up specification, you know, what you specify, what they should build. And you're right. I mean, am I making a machine that's going to be for thousands of customers? Or by the time I launch it, is there going to be hundreds? And what does that mean in terms of the product requirements, right? Should it be faster, bigger, or should it be cheaper? Right, and it's a delicate balance.
And it's funny because you mentioned that we are here. You said Corrugated show. It's actually called ICE and InPrint, and I think that it's a show that is like trying to attract the industrial print side. And what I have learned in the past years is that a lot of the printhead manufacturers actually have industrial divisions where you have builders that make one machine or two machines, and then they build machines that are really, really targeted to a specific application.
So we track about 600 what we call inkjet integrators around the world.
So that do exactly what I just said?
Yes, and the problem is, I bet you I only have a third. There must be 2,000 companies out there. Yeah. And you know, the barriers to entry are getting lower and lower as you go forward, because I can buy a print engine, not a print head, but an engine with the electronics and the fluid system, maintenance system, and I can make my own inkjet system. You know, it might not be very good if I make it, but the reality is they're very low barriers to entry. And so that's what's causing more and more of these companies to say, oh, I don't want to pay all this money for a finished system, I'll build my own. And so that number continues to grow. The challenge with it is that from a market perspective, it's actually very inefficient, because if everybody's trying to reinvent the wheel separately, the learning curve cost is extremely high and expensive. So, you know.
And I agree with you, but it's kind of funny because I have actually spoken to even book printers that have been thinking about replacing existing brand technology with their own kind of engineering kind of thing, right?
Right.
And I was just like, because the smaller companies that did the ones, the 600, 1800 you spoke about, typically that I saw one that was doing, printing on construction market, like kind of wood for this kind. That's just like one example, right? But to go from there, where you don't have high quality, but you just need to be a barcode that is readable, more or less, to having a book production is like fast, right?
So here's the interesting thing about our print market. It's not one market. It is hundreds of little markets, and they're all very specialized. And it's not the printing technology that matters, although of course we'd say it does. It's really the application engineering. So how do I apply that technology with that fluid onto that application and make it all come together?
One thing I also, the company.
Yes.
Yeah. Printing device that was basically made it possible for them to print fully customized advertising on each backside of a 1 million copy circulation, right?
Yes.
So it's just like borders are moving, right?
So we call that imprinting.
Exactly,
It could be because you're imprinting on top of something that's pre-printed.
Yeah, but it was not pre-printed. It was like, okay, of course the magazine was pre-printed, but the backside was blank. It was It was not just the name, it was like the full page.
And so you get the low cost of conventional printing plus the high value of digital printing. And so it's either the best of both worlds or the worst of both worlds, right? Exactly. It depends on your viewpoint because it depends on the run length.
But when I look at your work, that must make it a little bit more complicated, right? To get an overview of where people's needs and demands are moving.
Well, but that's the best part of my job. Every day I learn something new, truly. And I know more sort of silly facts about certain industries than anybody should ever care to know.
What have you learned today then?
Today. You had to, I do. So the thing I learned today is, so we track all these markets, right? And I get a lot of questions about direct-to-film printing. And so direct-to-film is basically printing on a piece of film that you then transfer, and with powder you adhere to shoes or anything, right? It's a promotional goods kind of thing. There is lots of companies that do this stuff, but I can't find them. And so it turns out the reason I can't find them, that particularly here in Europe, most of these guys come from the Balkan countries, and they buy effectively pre-made Chinese machines without the print head. They get over here, then they put the print head in, and they sell it. And so the companies that, you might recognize some names like Azon, but then there's 20 other little companies that you and I will have never heard of that come out of nowhere. But when you add it all up, it gets to be a very interesting market. And the problem is for us, right, they are actually hurting what we would call our direct-to-garment market, because people are not buying these direct-to-garment machines. Instead they're saying, oh, we're going to buy the direct-to-film machine. So to me that was an interesting thing. Like, I know they're out there, but I thought people were reusing direct-to-garment machines with film and powder, but they're actually buying dedicated machines for almost no money, right, out of these Eastern European countries.
Amazing, right?
Yeah.
I was just thinking 364 days more to learn. I mean, you must be busy, or do you take time off from time to time?
No. I mean, obviously I do take time off, but no, I'm always learning something, even when I'm traveling.
I know that. Marco, great to see you.
Martin, thank you. Thank you for seeing me.
Always.
All right.